Toss to White. He's in! Patriots win the Super Bowl!
Welcome to Patriots Touchback Podcast.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome on to a brand new edition of the Patriots Touchback Podcast. It is me, your host, Karl from KB Sports. I am joined, as always, by my two colleagues, Nick and Luke. We've also got Henrik joining us as well at some point. Gentlemen, how are we doing this evening?
All right.
Oh, good.
Yeah, all right. I mean, could be better. Could be better after the weekend, but we'll get into it. We'll get into it. I'm sure we might discuss the game on Sunday, but
to safely say it was an absolute travesty, to say the least. Before we get cracking on with the skidding of our team, first I would like to say a little apology to all our viewers and subscribers out there who have been wondering where the hell we've been for the last 4 or 5 weeks. Personal issues, illness has got in the way of our crew, and so we are back now. We're ready to go, and of course we have to dissect a game which, frankly, I'm not disappointed in that we lost the game. It was more a case of I'm disappointed on how we lost this game, losing 30 points to 24. No offense to a glorified college team. But where the hell do you start with this? Nick, where do we start with this?
That's a good question. I think... Hello, Henrik. I think that you just have to be blunt, be honest, and say that we were not good enough at all. And that isn't just that game. We have not been good enough from game one through to now. We have been a shadow of our former selves. You know, the days of, we're going to win the Super Bowl. No, we're not. I can't see a Super Bowl in our future for quite a while. I just, there is a lot of things wrong in the whole franchise from top to bottom. We've talked about the fact that GM Bill needs to be replaced. I think I'm not one who's going to call out Coach Bill and say he needs to go, but for everything that he's done, everything has an expiry date. But we are a shadow of our former selves. Simple as.
Yeah.
It's looking quite bad right now. Luke, before we ask it to yours, mate. Henrik, good to have you on, mate. Much appreciated you jumping on at the last second.
Thanks a lot.
Luke,
I'm very happy to be here.
Luke, talk to me, buddy. Where the hell did it go wrong? Where did it go wrong?
I was only thinking there is like, this is kind of what I thought we'd be, like looking at the roster at the start of the year. I had us winning 6 or 7 games. We've won 7. We're probably not going to win any more games. I mean, yeah, I'm right. I don't really care about that. I care about the team winning. I didn't want to be right. I really didn't. This is a talent poor roster. We don't have weapons in offense. We have our best receiver is a low end number 2, high end number 3 in Jacoby Myers on pretty much any other roster in the NFL. The tight ends that we haven't really panned out. I think Henry is fine. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's a game-changing weapon. He's not the money that you paid him to be. Jonnu Smith just hasn't worked out at all. And I don't think it's from a lack of effort or anything like that. I just think that he was given a deal that was just too big for the talent that he had. He'd 40 catches, I think was his best season, or 35 catches, I think, was his best ever season. We're not there. I think the O-line actually isn't terrible. I know we've been bad, or we think we've been bad from when we're watching it. But then you compare it to the rest of the NFL, and actually it's not a terrible line compared to the NFL, because there's lots of, as much as we think we're doing badly, which we are compared to the last few years, the offensive line talent in the NFL just isn't there anymore. It's something that's become it's become more obvious this year, is that line, you have a couple of high-end tackles in the league and a couple of high-end guards, and basically everybody else is just a mix in the middle. And last but not least, quarterback. He needs help. He needs somebody that can run an offense coach-wise. He needs somebody that can call the right plays. He needs weapons. But I still think at the end of the day, that's not going to be enough. He'll be Derek Carr. He'll be I don't even think he'd be that good, to be honest. Like the Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins median line in the NFL of what's the average quarterback. I don't even think if you gave him the weapons, he'd be that good, to be honest. I'd take Derek Carr over him right now. And I don't want Derek Carr. Well, I'll shut up now. Because I could go on and on and on. We haven't even been there yet.
No, we haven't even got there yet. Henrik, what were your thoughts on this?
Throughout the game, I was unimpressed by the Patriots. I think both Luke and Nick summarizes my feelings pretty well, especially Nick when he talks about how this game kind of encapsulates how the Patriots have been all year. But still, I would have gladly taken the victory. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I wasn't excited by watching the offense. I mean, Mac Jones did throw a touchdown pass to Jacoby Myers, but of course, there was a timeout called by the Patriots or by Bill Belichick, so that was just nothing was pretty exciting. And then that last play, it's just I'm still just what the hell happened and why did that happen? Why did we have to lose that game? I just think that's it's just incredible.
Excuse me, but what is one of the two big mantras in the Patriots folklore at the moment are, one, do your job, and two, situational football. Now, Stevenson broke through the tackle from Chandler Jones. He didn't even get a hand on Stevenson. First question, why doesn't Stevenson just dive on the floor? It's over. Game's over. Let's go to overtime. Let's see what you do. And even then, okay, so you don't, so you push on. Why is Myers throwing it that way? Do your job, know what your role, as the Rock used to say, know your role and shut your hole. I cannot for the life of me think.
The worst part in all that was the next pass that got thrown from Jacoby Myers, he threw it to the most unathletic player for us on the team. You might as well have thrown it to fucking Cole Strange.
Yeah.
He's more athletic than Mac Jones is. But it obviously went bust. Chandler Jones ended up picking it off, and then Mac Jones has now got to deal with a 6'5", 260 defensive end. I'm sorry, but what did you think was going to happen?
I just think were they looking for the Miami Miracle or something?
Yeah,
they were looking for?
The difference with the Miami Miracle was the fact Miami were playing from behind, so they had to lateral in order to win that match. All we had to do was just go to ground and go to OT.
Exactly.
But does that answer the question? Does that answer the question?
No, because
trust Mac Jones. That gives you an indication because he's done this twice now. He done it against the Tampa Bay game last season. 4th and 3 up the 35-yard line. If you can go 4th and 3, there's a chance we can kick it in late field goal and win this game. What did he do? He freaking decided to go for a very late field goal. Too far back, was like 49 yards in the pissing wind and rain, and it doinked off the post. Instead of putting the ball in the quarterback's hands, you just took it out of him. Second time he's done it again. He's done it again.
I just think it backs up the point we were talk about earlier about Mac Jones, that he's not the guy, and I think they don't think he's the guy, or at the very least, they don't think he's the guy right now, and he needs a lot of work before he will be the guy.
Well, it would help if they fucking put a competent coaching around him.
Oh, I agree.
We've spoke about this already with regarding of the fact that you can't just replace Josh McDaniels, regardless of what he is as a head coach, what he did in his time at Denver. As an OC, apart from his fucking third and long screenplays, which still bugs the living hell out of me, he was actually really good. And Mac Jones has gone from being this promising rookie that we saw last year. What was it? 22 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, 3,700 yards passing, I think he had, and looked promising, looked really promising. And he's gone from that to regressing to this stage where he is right now. Now, it's partly due to Mac Jones because I think he feels like he's bigged himself up a little bit too much. He's also not making the right throws. There were 2 throws that could have gone touchdowns. Jacoby Myers up the seam, that could have gone for a touchdown, and a wide open John O. Smith. He overthrew him 5 yards. What is John O. Smith's main attribute? Yards after catch. Put it in the bucket. He takes it to the house. There you go, Matt. 14 points off the board. There's another way of losing the game. But it's been, Yeah,
and I think it all comes down to Bill Belichick's decision-making, choosing not to replace Josh McDaniels with a really competent offensive coordinator or play caller. So, I mean, I'm not at all satisfied with Matt Patricia or George Judge for that matter. So I think there's one of the huge problems. We hear stories about, or we remember plenty of quarterbacks coming into the league and just being destroyed because they don't have the supporting cast or a stable environment. Alex Smith, former first overall pick for the 49ers in the 2005 drafts. By the time he had played 6 seasons, he'd had more than 6 offensive coordinators. That's how you stop the development of a quarterback or get a bust. So it's Bill Belichick just should have made a better decision than what he did. But I'm still with him.
He brought in his buddies, and it's completely backfired him. It's completely exploded back in his face.
That's right.
How can you replace Josh McDaniels with a coordinator who isn't an offensive coordinator?
No, you can't.
We should have seen the warning signs as soon as this happened.
Yeah.
Because it's like, right? How's this going to work? But we all decided, let's give Patricia some time and let's see if we can work this out. As soon as we lost that Bears game on week 6 in Monday Night Football, I said, nah, I'm not buying this at all. Something seriously wrong with this offense. Might be due to Mac Jones, maybe the O-line has just regressed, or more importantly, Matt Patricia is a hack.
I mean, I remember...
He is the only coach that I can recall in the NFL that's gone to a team who was just outside of playoff contention, i.e. the Detroit Lions, when they fired Jim Caldwell. They were 9-7. They fired Jim Caldwell. They brought in Matt Patricia, and he made them fucking worse.
I remember when he came back to the Patriots, and he sat and he shadowed Ernie, didn't he? He shadowed Ernie for a year, and I remember this summer. I'm sure me and Henrik had a conversation about me being on Patriots Unfiltered and saying the same thing, that I was willing this summer to give him the benefit of the doubt and think, right, okay, he's had a year with Ernie, he's watched, it's almost like you've moved Ernie by bringing in Patricia. You've moved Ernie from upstairs and you've brought him onto the bench, and it just hasn't worked out. It hasn't worked out like that. I wouldn't even put Matty P back on the defensive side of the ball because I just don't think he's doing the job at the moment. I just, I think the whole coaching structure needs an overhaul.
Yeah, I actually think you need to.
I'm not going to be one that's going to call for Belichick's head, because that I don't believe that a man who has done what he has done deserves that. But there is an expiry date on his ability, and he needs to understand that he needs to get the job done. And if that means he needs to get rid of his cronies, as Karl said, and get rid of his mates and actually bring in some proper coaches, then so be it. I mean, Josh McDaniels, when he went to Vegas, wanted to take Nick Cayley with him. And Bill Belichick stuck hard, stuck fast, and said, "No, I'm keeping Nick Cayley." Now, what is Nick Cayley doing? He's doing tight end coaching. If this guy is so good, why is he not coaching further up the tree?
Great question.
I think
question that
one of the reasons potentially is that the way that the coaching contracts are done is that Nick Cayley could have been the only guy under contract, because they only usually get 1 or 2 year deals, and then they just re-up them if they want to keep them. And I reckon that the other guys that went could have been out of a deal.
Yeah,
and
that's exactly what happened.
And I think Nick Cayley might have had 1 year left in his deal, and we could see him leave at the end of this year. 5 or 6 years? I think he's been the tight ends coach. With now he kind of got usurped essentially as the next man up to be offensive coordinator, because everybody else left, so it was basically him and the assistant offensive line coach. I can't remember his name. Cam Brasillo, I think, isn't it? They were the only two left, and that I think we could be seeing him go as well. Not that I think he's done a great job or anything. I mean, I haven't seen anything out of Henry and Smith and Asiasi and Keane, to say that he's doing a particularly great job. Now, he could have got the most out of the players. The players could just not be good. I don't know. But, sometimes, I don't even know what to say. Like, I think realistically, what we need to do, if I was Robert Kraft, and I would go to Bill at the end of the year and say, "Love you, Bill, mean it, love what you've been doing here. I want to keep you, but anybody involved with the offensive side of the ball needs to go, and you need to start over. I need you to bring in experienced coaches, people that you're comfortable with too. Like, don't like be plucking guys, calling Eric Mangini back or anything like that. Like putting the team into a terrible situation." But
the first thing he'll do with that is call Bill O'Brien, and you'll end up with Bill O'Brien as your OC. And I don't think that is the answer either.
Well, Bill O'Brien was only 1 year as offensive coordinator for the Patriots, and he did take us to the Super Bowl.
And I think he was a really good head coach as well. I know he kind of fell apart towards the end, but like
he was a good head coach, but a bad
GM, bad GM,
bad
GM.
Yeah.
So no, if you just give him the coaching role, maybe. But I don't know. I don't know. As an OC, I think he'll be perfect.
When he was just head coach of the Texans, if you look at the Texans before he got there, when he was there, and then when he got the GM job, and everything kind of fell apart. He got them to the playoffs, and he was coaching the arse off that team. To be honest, I think he was actually really, really, I'd say he was a top 10 coach at the time in the NFL. Also low bar, let's be honest, but because there's so many hiring and so much hiring firing. But I would be saying to Belichick, get the next Mike McDaniel, steal somebody from Shannon's coaching tree.
Yeah.
Obviously,
the only one on there which is worth taking right now is their defensive coordinator, and that's D'Amico Ryan. But that's defensive coordinator, not offensive coordinator. Yeah. So that's no good. That doesn't help the situation.
Sean McVay's second in command, or even the guy. He can't take a coordinator. I was going to say the Lions offensive coordinator.
You could have had an opportunity. You could have had an opportunity to take Kevin O'Connell, which is obviously Sean McVay's OC for the Rams. But that ship sailed now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a case of where you go from here.
But yeah, I like the idea of taking someone from another team. Maybe not Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator on the Lions, but someone in his staff. I would like to see someone with either talent or a good experience. I would be positive towards Bill O'Brien, but I would be concerned that it would just be temporary, like just a year, just 2 seasons.
I said to Karl before you guys jumped on, I said to Karl, you want the guy who got a Super Bowl out of Nick Foles, Frank Reich, OC.
Yeah, I'd be.
That'd be
I
better
think
than much better than
yeah,
Matt Patricia.
I would take that
I'd
in a
say
heartbeat.
Yeah.
I would absolutely take that in a heartbeat. Oh, hang on. David's just popped up here. Bill O'Brien and Flores, DC or
I
Mayo
said
kick
Flores
out. It
earlier,
starts. Yeah, I think Jared Mayo deserves to have a shot at being DC. Steve Belichick hasn't really done much for me. Brian Flores, I think that bridge burnt.
No way.
Unfortunately.
No way.
I'd like to see him back, but I don't. I think the option was it was probably floated out, and he chose the Steelers instead. I think and it's sensible. I think from Flores, because I think you don't go back unless you're desperate, and I don't think he was desperate. I'm sure he had plenty of offers to go coach. I know he's coaching linebackers, I think, in
Steelers.
with the Steelers, but he's only coaching linebackers because I think if he takes a coordinator or a head coach job, he'd be, they'd have to pay a lot of money for him. But my thing with bringing in Bill O'Brien or anybody else is that we can't just go, okay, we've brought in Bill O'Brien. That's that problem solved.
Yeah.
Offense is sorted. You need receivers. You need you'll probably need 2 new tackles. Because I think Trent Brown is the San Francisco 49ers version of Trent Brown and the Raiders version of Trent Brown this year. And I'm a big Trent Brown apologist. I love him. He's a little childish little face in him, and he's big and massive, and he's cool. But I think he'll be gone. I think Wynn will be gone. Will be gone as well. Cajuste probably not a starting right tackle in the NFL. I think he's a good swing tackle, and your swing tackle is always going to be bad, because if he was bad, he'd be starting. You just need some guy that's not going to completely crap the bed every time he plays. He might give up a sack every game he plays, but he's not going to, he's not going to be a swing gate.
He's there for the depth.
Exactly, you're there for the depth. If you look at the guard situation, Cole Strange doesn't look like he's great. He looks good when he's moving forward for the run play. He doesn't look good when he's in pass protection. Now, I mean, as well, I also think he needs to put on weight. Every time you look at him, you see the guts hanging out of the offensive line, particularly the Andrews and Onwenu. And then you see Cole Strange, and he's like this svelte, got a flat belly. And I'm like, you don't have a flat belly as an interior offensive lineman. So I think if he puts on a bit of weight, he might be a bit harder to move backwards. And once he learns, as Paul Perillo says, nutrition at the NFL level, he might put on a bit more muscle. But I think you do. I'll quote him all day. I love the man. You need offensive line, but I don't want us spending. We need to spend the draft capital on the weapons. We brought in Cole Strange. We've brought in Isaiah Wynn.
The prime example.
We can't be spending too much more capital on offensive line, and it still be bad. You're going to have to find that somewhere else. Sorry, Karl.
The prime example of this is getting a bona fide number 1 receiver. It's the same thing as what It's the same thing as what Philadelphia done. Jalen Hurts in his 3rd year. How are you going to improve him? Get him a bona fide number 1 receiver. So what they did, they trade a 1st-round pick up to Tennessee and go and get AJ Brown, who is still giving me PTSD that we took the Gil Harry over AJ Brown. But there was. I go back to last week in the Arizona game, okay, because Hopkins and Belichick had a very, very long conversation after the game had finished. Now, I don't want to put any fingers in any pies here, but I would trade at least a first to get Hopkins. He would be perfect.
I disagree with that. I would not I would
Why?
not. Well, first of all, it's been like
I don't
2
think
or
he's
3
worth
seasons.
it first.
No, he's not worth it, and he's on the wrong side of 30. He hasn't had 1,000 yards since a couple of seasons. He's not going to get. He might get 1,000 yards this year, but last season I wouldn't give a first round pick for DeAndre Hopkins.
I know that we've got capital for the free agency. I think we've got something like 90 million or whatever. But I'm just looking at our draft picks. We've got a round 1, a round 2, a round 3, which is Carolina's from Carolina. We've got a 4. We've got another 4 from LA, and then we've got 2 6s. Considering the amount of holes that we have, free agency and our draft is not going to cut it.
Yeah, and you can't trade one of those draft picks. You can't trade one of those draft picks.
I mean, I don't know. I know Bill goes for value. I don't know whether you can get rid of your 1 for 2 2s and a 3 or 3 2s. But we do not have enough draft capital and money to replace the amount of holes we've got. And this goes back to GM Bill. This is 5 years of poor drafting that has come back to haunt you. I've said when we were podding 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks ago, whatever it was, I said I cannot believe that we did not walk away from 2018 with Lamar Jackson. He'd have sat for 1 year under Brady. And he's not the only one that we let get away. You know, Karl just said it himself about AJ Brown. You know, there are big names that we have let escape.
Yeah, this goes on.
It's been very bad.
There is not enough draft capital and money to fix the amount of holes that the Patriots have. This is not a 1 year fix. This is a 3 to 5 year fix.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's been BB has been picking very bad, and in order to turn this around, he's got a hit on each draft pick essentially, and he's not been able to do that.
I mean, Bill's only going to be here until he breaks the record, and then he's gonna go anyway. You know,
it could be a long. It could be a long while yet, though, because if the Patriots continue on this trajectory, he's going to be here for at least another 3 years.
Yeah,
I think
if you average 7 to 8 wins, he'll be here for 3 years.
I think that's a given, unless he gets fired. I think he'll stay here for at least 3 years.
Yeah.
No, I think what Luke said as well. You know, I don't think Kraft is going to fire Belichick, but it will. The first option, I think, is the possibility of happening, which is, I want to keep you, but Patricia needs to go, Joe Judge needs to go, or worse or best for Joe Judge, you send him down to special teams, because before he went to the Giants, he was special teams coordinator, and he was actually pretty half damn good. So there's your option there. He said, but if Bill refuses, then I think Robert Kraft has got to take a leaf out of Jerry Jones' book. Be ruthless. Let's see, I run this fucking show, not you. Out you go.
Yeah, it's a tough one, because I think anybody looking at the team would say objectively that it's not working, right? Since post Brady, and we're not sitting here saying we should be winning the Super Bowl. It's like, no, we just kind of want a competent offense and a competent defense and see where that gets us. You have a player, a quarterback that threw for 112 yards and was 13 of 31. It's not like he didn't throw a lot of passes. He threw a lot of passes. They just weren't good. He's not good enough, I think, in the current state of the offense. And when I say he's not good enough, I mean, I don't believe and I always want to qualify it, I don't believe he's good enough, but he's also completely not helped by the talent and the coaching. So I mean that as the full package. And just, I saw DJ's question there, would you consider trading Mac now? I don't think you'd get a whole lot for him.
You won't.
I wouldn't trade him.
A second at best, a second round pick at best.
I think you've got to factor in as well, he's on a first round rookie contract, which is going to escalate to about 8, 9, 10 million. I think they are, off the top of my head. So, like, it's not like he's a Brian Hoyer 1 or 2 million a year contracts, like to be a backup somewhere. You know, it's not like you're getting an unreal bargain or anything like that.
I genuinely don't think Mac is the problem. There are some issues with his play that need fine tuning. Yeah, you know,
but that takes an OC. But that takes a competent offensive coordinator and a proper QB coach.
I don't think Mac is the problem.
There's one thing we'll put into place. Okay, Brian Hoyer's obviously been with for God knows how long. Okay, and he is starting to get he still is starting to age a little bit now. And that, what if he was to turn around and retire, and then Bill turns around and goes, "Come back and be my QB coach"?
Well, supposedly that's what he's been doing, because by being the third choice QB and being paid the veteran minimum, whatever it is, 1.18, whatever it is.
Yeah.
By being paid the veteran minimum and being the third choice QB, he's getting paid more than he would do as a coach. And he's effectively doing coaching. I'm sure I read somewhere that he's almost like an on-field coach. You know, when on the practice fields, when he's there and he's standing with Zappy or he's standing with, you know, he's more of a coach. He's in that coaching role now than he's ever been. I think you'll probably find he's probably doing quite a bit of coaching as it is, but. I was just looking at some of my notes for this week.
Show prep.
Does anyone know what our third down conversion rate is this season?
15%, I'm guessing.
It's a bit higher than that. 34.1%. Do you know where that puts us?
32nd.
Last.
29th.
Yeah.
29th at 34.1 for a third down conversion. If you cannot convert your third downs, you won't go anywhere.
No wonder the defense is gassed all the time.
Yeah. You could see it towards the end of the game.
I'll add something into comparison as well, okay? So penalties because we are so supposed to be very clean on penalties, situational football, the X's and O's, the finer details. We're 10th in the NFL, averaging 6.1 penalties a game, right? You said third down percentage, 29th, correct. Do you know what we are in red zone touchdown percentage?
Probably worse than that.
Dead last.
Yeah.
Dead last. Denver are ahead of us, and fucking Russell Wilson's offensive skills is basically putting metal utensils in a microwave. It's just.
I'll put it this way: I prefer Mac Jones over Russell Wilson any day.
Okay, well, at least we can agree to that then. Yes. Right. Let's deep dive into this game a little bit more, because we've talked a little about the main points of Mac Jones, the OC, and that sort. Let's talk a bit about the game, because I need to understand something. Okay, the defense has done so well up to this point. The Raiders in the fourth quarter, about 2 minutes 6 to go, 4th and 10 at their own 30. Why the fucking hell was Steve Belichick telling his defense to play soft zone coverage on 4th and 10? You need one stop. You need one stop. And pretty much the game's done. Because the Raiders had no timeouts.
You keep the game in front of you. That's why you call zone coverage. You keep the game in front of you, make a play on the ball. It's much easier to make a play on the ball in zone than it is in man. Okay, I understand that. So answer me this. Where the fuck was Uche and Judon on that play then? I agree with you. The situation.
Our two best pass rushers are on the fucking sideline.
Yeah, they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be. And there was a few things as well. To your point, Karl, I saw Judon dropping back into coverage quite a lot, covering the flats, and it's fine to do that once or twice a game, just to put it in the offensive coordinator's heads that, there's potential that he'll drop out to the flats, just to put it on tape. But I saw it more than once or twice. You're basically giving them a mulligan on throwing the ball. They have 4 or 5 seconds to throw the ball if Judon's not passing, is not rushing the passer. And I agree with you. I think the zone thing, fine, 110%. You're right on the pass rushing. you need to have your best horses out there. You know,
and our bread and butter pretty much all season on this offense has been our running game. Yet it took us the second half to eventually get Ramondre Stevenson to start pounding the. I mean, I'm like, no offense, but even I could freaking play cool better in the first half because that was just absolutely shocking. It was just shocking. I know Ramondre Stevenson's coming off a bit of a slight injury, but the way he was playing that second half, we didn't think he had an injury. Was it 21? Was it 21 carries, 172 yards rushing?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I wonder did they give him painkilling injections at halftime, maybe, or something like that. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yes, like maybe. I don't know.
It's possible.
Maybe,
yeah,
but we deviated away from the running game in the first half, and I just can't understand. The Raiders' run defense isn't that good. It really isn't that good. So why are you trying to? Again, there was no play. There was barely any play action passes. There was barely any RPOs. It was just, you could just tell that even on the Raiders' defensive side of the ball, they knew what we were going to do straight off the bat. We've been doing this now for about the last 3 or 4 weeks now, and it's so easy to catch us out. It's so easy to spot us.
Because what we started off doing this season is we'd run the screens. We'd run a screen. And now what we've started to do quite regularly is run the double screen, because that is the next development out of, is the next, hinge on the screenplay. The problem with running the double screen is that because the offensive linemen usually kick out to one side of the field to block, for the first screen. But what that does is it leaves the quarterback wide open to be hit by the defensive lineman. If the defensive lineman don't go and follow the play and just go, actually, I'm just going to go for the quarterback. If that read isn't there, if they spot that, the second read will save. So you got the screen out to the right for your first read, and then you flip it out to the right, to the left, and you see, oh, he's actually covered. Then bang, you get hit. I just generally think Matt Patricia is just reading, reading the back off, not the back of an offensive freaking playbook, but off the back of a freaking kids menu at Wimpy's. I really do.
I think it's a very bland, very vanilla offense. It just seems. I get it. It's new. They spent the off season implementing it. And there's obviously a few holes in it and whatever, but it just doesn't seem to be working. Now, I don't know whether that's due to personnel or whether it's due to coaches, but it just seems to be that we are out of our depth.
Yeah, you're right, and I think that's kind of how it looks now. You're looking at a team that
our defense. Our defense held a fully healthy Raiders offense to minus 0.09 expected points per play. When your defense is doing that, your offense has got to step up, put your hand up, be counted, and actually do something.
Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right. Like
It feels like a waste when the defense are able to hold the opposing offense from scoring points, and the Patriots offense cannot capitalize, cannot get to the end zone, and when they do, cannot convert and get touchdowns. It does feel like a waste.
I think one of my favorite, well, not favorite, but funniest stats of the year is that Mac Jones is still behind Carson Wentz in passing touchdowns this year.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz is 10, I think. Mac Jones still only has 8. And he's
7. He doesn't have. Okay. Yeah. Well, it's terrible.
I think he's 8 after the other day. Is it 8 the other day? No, he didn't throw one.
Do you know the worst part of all of this? Mac
7.
Jones is only 2 touchdowns ahead of our backup.
Yeah.
That's the concerning part in all of this.
Yeah, I mean, that's one. I'm just going to quickly say this.
Yeah,
it's one thing that the offensive coach and play callers are not doing a good job, but Mac Jones is not compensating for that. yes, play calling is bad, offensive line is difficult, but sometimes avoid a sack, get a third down completion, make some plays. He's not making plays.
I don't remember a time or anywhere where I've kind of gone, he's after throwing the receiver open, or he's after,
Right.
he's put the ball in a place where nobody else could get it bar the receiver. Like he's threaded the needle between two defenders and he's got it there. Like he just kind of seems to only throw to open receivers or throw a jump ball. I don't see now. I just don't see those passes where you kind of go, wow, that was a good pass. No, mainly because he's throwing screens and little dump off passes most of the time, and he's literally just spreading the ball out. He's only probably, I'd love to see his stats of, and I mean, since he's come back, because I think at the start of the year, they were definitely trying to throw the ball down the field more, realized then he couldn't do it. And since then, yes, he's been a lot more careful with the ball, but it's very easy to be more careful with the ball when you're throwing the ball predominantly behind the line of scrimmage or just in front of it. I'd love to see what his average yards per pass through the air is since he's returned from injury, because I would say it's probably about 5 yards, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
If that, I think it was 3 point. I think it's average about 4. I think he has so far.
Yeah. That's just shocking. Like,
okay, let's right. Shall we get? I know, obviously, it's out of our hands now. We lost 30-24, and because of that fucking botched bloody play, the game's done. But shall we address the elephant in the room? Shall we? That touchdown the Raiders had, Keenan Cole, right foot inbounds, left foot. Apparently, not enough evidence there to overturn the call. His left foot was on the fucking line. That means he's out of bounds. The top of his boot was out of bounds. And apparently they didn't have enough camera angles. Or inconclusive. Bullshit. I'll say so. I'm sorry for swearing too much on the show, by the way, guys. But this was we've seen too many games where ref ball has played its part in it, okay? The Washington Giants game on Sunday Night Football was a prime example of when the refs decide to dictate who wins and who loses that game. Now, I'm not going to say this was basically revenge for the tuck rule, but it kind of stinks like that.
I can't disagree.
Yeah. So essentially, the moral of the story is we're even with the Raiders now.
Oh, please! They got three more Super Bowls to win the cap before they're even with us. But anyway,
I think there are some referees, there are some officials, and this goes for all sports. I could reel off a few that you get in the Premier League every week. There are some officials that like to be front and center. Oh, look at me, look at me, look at me. And there are some that will just let the game go and let the game flow. And it seems like some aren't willing to say boo to a goose and call a play that's, the guy, I can't remember what game it was, but there was a guy on the line and he said to the referee, am I okay here? And the ref's like, yeah, you're fine. And he's already got his hand in his pocket ready to throw the flag. And it's like, that's not the right way to officiate. The NFL have a problem in that they tried to use whatever they call it, replay review. I mean, I know we call it VAR, but they've tried to use it. It's fallen flat on their face because they didn't use it correctly. And what they've said is, oh, no, we're not going to use it for that. And we're not going to use it for that because it doesn't work. It does work. You just have to use it properly.
You have to implement it correctly. You're 100% right, Nick. It's because it took at the end of the day, right? I think we've all probably played some sports here. You meet the ref and there's always the referee that wants the game to be about them. and they want to control everything. Tuck your shirt in, all that kind of stuff. They want to boss around 22 guys in a soccer pitch or an American football field. And it comes when you introduce VAR or assist referee, you're taking the power out of the Whitecaps' hands, and you're giving it essentially, well, technically you're not, because it's still their call, but you're lessening their power. And they, I feel, took a complete stand against it as a group of referees, and were like, we'll do it, but we'll make sure that it's an absolute joke of a thing, and they'll get rid of it as soon as they can. And that's exactly what they did. They just made ridiculous calls. Like, we're using the technology you gave us. Like, yeah, but the technology still relies on you making the right calls. And they were, I felt, purposefully not doing that. And it's not a conspiracy theory. I just think that's it. It was like plain as the hand in front of your face that they were doing it, because I felt like, I was listening to Pat McAfee today, and he said this is probably the first week since probably the start of the year where there's been some really bad ref calls that have across a few games. Generally, we've not been talking much about the referees. And I was kind of like, yeah, I think he's right, actually. Like, we haven't had that many egregious ref calls. And remember going back to those years where we had those...
the Chiefs game.
The assisted... I'm going to just call it VAR. When we had VAR in the NFL, and it was nearly every game had some ridiculous call that they were like, couldn't see if it was clear and obvious. It was like, it was clear and obvious. We could see.
They need Hawkeye.
You need Hawkeye. Yeah, exactly. So anyway,
that's what I think they got
overlabored by me there.
They got cameras on the pylons, haven't they? They got cameras on the pylons for when they actually do go in.
No,
the front pylon.
The front pylon. The front pylon. They do
only in NBC's coverage do they have pylon.
How convenient! How convenient!
So as our Lord
you could, essentially, Karl's right.
You could implement that. You can implement that to CBS, to Fox, to ESPN, to Amazon as well. Put cameras in both, not just the top pylon, both pylons, because we actually need to see if we get anything like this happening again.
Absolutely,
This is the NFL owns billions and billions and billions of dollars every freaking season. Surely you must have the money to pay the cameramen of these television companies and say, we need cameras here, in all the spots, which could be tight, could be difficult, and we may need one or two more looks on it. That's all they need to do. But it just seems that the Ginger Hammer just wants chaos, just wants conspiracies,
that goes back to my point about Hawkeye. Hawkeye, I mean, it's great in tennis and whatever, and it doesn't work in some sports. But you look at the way it does actually work. You put a Hawkeye camera straight across the back of that line. There'll be no argument about whether anyone's foot has ever gone out, because you'll be able to see it perfectly. The system works, but you've got to be prepared to implement it properly, and you've got to be prepared to finance it. And the NFL don't want that. They want to keep all the pennies coming in and keep the pennies amongst the 32 franchises, and that's it.
But there's a reason why fans are being turned away on the NFL, is because of these fucking calls. If you actually made the call spot on, and there won't be no controversy, you would actually say the fans there's more integrity in the NFL now than what there was prior to it.
I think they're just looking. I think what the owners are doing, they're looking at their bottom line and seeing the money come in every year and going, don't need to spend money on that. The money's going up, and we're not having to do any. We're not going to have to. We should spend more money on cameras. Is it going to affect our bottom line? No, probably not.
Why do it?
Don't buy the cameras. So yeah, just to go back to the point, if you want to get really conspiracy theory about this, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I hate most of them, to be honest. NBC are the only people that have the pylon cams. Our game was flexed out of NBC because we were going to be on the late game, and we got flexed back to a Fox covered game which doesn't have pylon cams. So it would, if we'd stayed as the in the NBC in the late spot, that would have not been called a touchdown, just purely by who was covering the game, which in itself is ridiculous if you think about it. It came down, the call came down to which TV company was running the game, calling the game. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, producing the game. That's literally what that came down to, because I know people kind of say the error of parallax, where it's not the angle right over the foot. Every camera angle I saw, his foot was over the line. When I watched it live, I was like, he's out. This shouldn't be much of a debate. When I saw the up close, I was like, geez, he was it was a bit closer than I thought, but still, I mean, we can all see his foot is out. We all have two eyes that are generally working. His foot is out. It's irrefutable. Apparently it was refutable because they botched the call. And in a way, no, I don't know. And I was going to try to play a bit.
But the question I would ask you is this, okay? That call did get overturned and it wasn't a touchdown. The Raiders still would have had 2 downs.
They would have scored a touchdown.
They would have scored. They probably would have. They would have 50% chance of scoring a touchdown.
It's not the point.
So we're crying over spilt milk here because we are still the
Oh, this is not a winning or losing the game thing. This is just a point of emphasis, really. We were still. They would have still scored the touchdown. Let's be fair, right? We weren't stopping them at that point.
Just overall, okay. The first half was poor. We got our shtick together in the second half with the running game, but we got undone by our own self-destruction once again. And that play, I mean, we thought the Miami Miracle was something that's going to haunt us for the rest of our life. Oh no! Oh no! That doesn't even scratch the surface compared to this one. It really, really doesn't.
At least the Miami Miracle.
All I'll say is this, okay? We play Cincinnati on Christmas Eve. If we lose that game, I don't want to see Mac Jones play the final 2 games for the rest of the season, because then our season's done. You might as well throw Bailey Zappi in there, see what he could do against 2 good teams in Miami and Buffalo. If we go 7-10, we go 7-10. If we go 8-9 or 9-8, whatever. But it just wasn't good enough. There was some good parts of this game, or good moments in this game. The first shout out I'm going to give is our rookie corner, Marcus Jones, shutting down Devontae Adams. 3 catches, 28 yards.
DeAndre Hopkins.
Devontae Adams.
My bad. Sorry for that. Yellow card.
I should eject you for that. That was
a yellow card. You were almost across alone with the goalkeeper, but there was one defender. I tackled you. It's a yellow card.
Cardinals was last week.
But no, Marcus Jones was absolutely excellent. Shutting down Devontae Adams. Karl Duggar obviously got the pick 6, which gave the offense to kick up the arse it actually needed. Because I don't think if that pick 6 happened, I don't think we would have got going at all.
No.
And Josh Uche as well. What's that? 10 sacks now in 7 games?
10.5.
It wasn't just the Devontae Adams, though, was it? Because they kept Josh Jacobs was kept to 92 yards on 22 carries. And Max Crosby and Chandler Jones ended up with no sack. The defense. It goes back to it. The defense are doing their job. It's the offense that are the problem.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: the offensive line we've lambasted pretty much most of the season. I think this is the first game properly where the O-line, as a cohesive unit, actually done a decent job. In the running game and also protecting Mac Jones, because Mac Jones, yes, he got hit like 4 or 5 times, but he never got sacked once.
Yeah.
Never got sacked once. So the O-line does deserve a little bit of credit for that. But it's very, very hard to pinpoint anything else. Okay, it really is. Stevenson, apart from Stevenson with the running game, apart from the brain fart he had by pitching to Jacoby Myers, we're going to put that out to the past now. He was excellent on the running game, but it's one of those things. We're 7-7 now, and us Patriot fans have got to accept it now. We're not a good team anymore. We're just not. And yet I am still finding these weasels on Twitter that still believe we have an outside chance of making the playoffs. I mean, I would like the optimistic drugs you are on, please, because we don't stand a fucking hell chance of making the playoffs. What, you think we're going to beat Cincinnati on Saturday? No chance. No chance. You think we're going to beat Miami when they come to us? No, their offense has got better over the season. They're going to kill us. And the Bills, well, I said they'll sweep us anyway. Yeah. We got no chance. We got no bloody chance. We had the hardest schedule out of the 14 that was still in the hunt for wildcard spots. We had the hardest schedule. Chargers had the easiest. Then you had the Jets.
Karl, welcome to my side of the fence, my friend. You doubted me at the start of the season when I said this run of games was always going to be.
Out you go. That's a minute of Sinden for you. I am not joining your side. I'll push him back in now.
Hey, but you know, like we had the optimism at the start of the season when the schedule was a lot easier, and this back half of the schedule was always going to be the tough bit, and we are probably, with the Raiders game and the Cardinals game, we're probably going to go 1-4, 1-5. I can't even remember what was the game last week. Cardinals. So we'll go 1-5.
We'll go 1-4 if we
1-4 of the last few, and that is going to bring us to 7-10. You know, maybe, you know, so
might get a top 10 pick then. Might get a top 10 pick.
And it's kind of you're in the middle of the pack. You're stuck in the middle of the pack, and that's unfortunately where if you kind of look at the talent on the team, there's just not enough talent. You look at the Pro Bowl voting. We've not Mac Jones. Judon is our only legitimate Pro Bowl player. I think somebody was saying about Jack Jones. I think Jack Jones had a solid rookie season. Yeah. He's not a Pro Bowl corner.
No way.
No, like these, he's not playing like Sauce Gardner is, or Woolen from the Seahawks. You know, that like there's some where are our top players at the position? Like look at the 49ers roster. They nearly have a top 5 guy or 2 top 5 guys at their position. And I know that's 49ers roster is probably the best in the NFL, or the Eagles roster. But if you have a quarterback on a rookie contract, that's what you need to be doing. You need to be going out and putting talent around them and maximizing what you have. And we aren't. And I feel like Mac Jones will get to the end of his rookie deal and we'll end up paying him. And then we'll be stuck with a massive, mediocre contract quarterback. And we will be Dallas Cowboys.
I mean,
with Dak, because he's mediocre.
Yeah, I mean, I still take us back to Lamar Jackson when we didn't draft him at the time. He's after his money now. We've got cap space, but too many holes. I say he does deserve it in a way, but he hasn't really proven in the playoffs. He's won one playoff game in his rookie season, so not rookie season, sorry, in his rookie contract. So
I agree with you.
He's done a little bit more than Kyler Murray, and we know who's the better quarterback. So, right.
He'll get there. I do believe he'll get there. I think it's a matter of time for him. But yeah, I agree. He still needs to do it though before you can kind of.
Yeah. Right. Before we get on out of it, guys, let's have a quick preview on our game coming up Saturday. We're back at home in Foxborough against the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati, they were looking in trouble at halftime against the Buccaneers, and then they proceed to stomp them into the ground. Joe Burrow is just... I really do like Joe Burrow. I absolutely love Joe Burrow. But he is going to be a massive problem to deal with. But we will be going against a former Patriot in that game as well. Our ex-center, Ted Karras. So, going to be very, very interesting. But the biggest problem for us is to deal with is going to be, oh boy, deal with that two-headed monster in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. That's going to be a problem. And Joe Mixon as well at running back. He's going to be a problem.
You've got even Tyler Boyd is better than is their third receiver, and he's better than any of our receivers.
That's saying something. Their third string receiver is better than anything we got.
He's a really good receiver, and he's their third option. And since they had him on the team, they thought, because I think at the time they had Marvin Jones possibly and Tyler Boyd, and they went, these guys are really good, but we need to be better. Let Marvin Jones walk out the door, and they drafted T. Higgins and
Jamar Chase.
Thank you. And I think Marvin Jones actually left a long time ago. I think I'm aging myself again here, but yeah, they decided that they weren't good enough, and that Boyd is actually probably better served being a third option. He would be our number one receiver. I mean, because he's proven when Chase and Higgins were injured that actually when they do throw the ball to him, he can play like a number one receiver and carry the load. But he doesn't need to.
The thing with Joe Burrow is when they were talking about picking Jamar Chase, and they gave Joe Burrow some, they gave him the voice, and having been at college with him, he kicked and screamed, "We need Jamar Chase, we need Jamar." I mean, can you imagine Bill going to Mac and saying, "Mac, what do you want? What do you want us to do?" Get out of my office. Bill does what he wants to do, and I think it's.
Apparently, we did trade out once Waddle got picked.
The problem.
Don't upset him anymore.
The problem is that Waddle was taken in the 6th pick, I think it was. We weren't trading up that high up to go and get Waddle, I don't think.
No, and I think it was one of these cases that if he got in and around the range of where we were picking, that they would have probably traded up, but it was too far. I don't think they thought.
No, we would have traded up. Our best chance of getting a high-class, world-class number one receiver was back in the 2019 draft when we took the Kill Harry, where we had Deebo Samuel,
McLaurin, Metcalf,
DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, even Brandon Ayuk, who was a second round. I think it was the second or third round. Even Brandon Ayuk would have been unique right now.
So terrible.
And it's just the Steelers are a prime example. They get receivers in the second round and they turn into gods.
Yeah,
they got a guy, George Pickens.
He's good.
He looks better than what we got. He looks
better.
What they do is that they know that their coaching staff, they pick, I want to call the head cases, the guys that are talented, but they're not going to be first round picks because there's probably something a bit wrong upstairs. Like you look at Juju, you look at Antonio Brown, you look at Pickens as well, because Pickens was a bit of a problem child apparently in college. But they know that they have a strong enough locker room, they have a strong enough coaching staff that they can handle the personalities. Like I like to say that I don't like those types of players on my team, but also at the same time, sometimes you need those guys because some of those guys are the more talented guys. You know, you look at a guy like Randy Moss. Now he's a bit of a unicorn in himself because he's so talented, but he was that kind of, you throw the ball to me and you throw the ball to me in every play. And the only time you shouldn't be throwing the ball to me is when we're on defense, because that's the type of person he was. But he also had the ability to back it up. And these Steelers receivers are kind of the same thing. And I totally agree with you, I think. But I also think it comes down to them, their ability to identify talent. They had Kevin Colbert there for years and years and years, and he's one of the best drafters in the NFL.
Yeah.
In the NFL history, he was absolutely fantastic.
Did you know Tomlin's never had a losing season?
Until this year.
Not until this season.
No.
This season.
If the Steelers run the rest, if the Steelers run the
They
table,
won't.
if they win the rest of their games, he comes out break even, and he'll still be.
They won't.
I don't think it's going to happen.
They probably won't. But yeah, I just think between having Tomlin and Colbert, now Colbert's gone, I think, since this, was it this year was his last draft?
This was his last draft.
Yeah, and he if there was anybody that I'd pick to GM the team, it would be him. He's by far and away the best GM, I think, the best GM in the NFL research.
Well, I mean, there is one other way of pushing this as well. And that is, obviously, the Texans are in freefall right now. And then I'm hearing rumors going around the mill that apparently Nick Caserio may get released.
Really? That would surprise me a lot.
Because he was a Jack Easterby hire, and Jack Easterby's left, and apparently, Nick Caserio is sort of like, maybe it might be a dead man walking, in that the guy that actually hired him has gone, and the guy, the owner of the Texans, didn't want Caserio to start with. So, but
if
I don't
that's
know what
the case, then you're 100% right, because if I was the owner of the Texans and I saw what's going on this year, I actually love Lovie Smith. I think he's a good coach. I think players like him. I just think that there is 0.0 talent on that team. Like, if we think our roster is talent poor, they have Brandon Cooks and Damian Pierce and nothing else. Literally
Derek Stingley as well.
Nothing else.
The rookie cornerback.
I think Davis Mills was our second choice. Davis Mills was our second choice quarterback in the draft. If Mac hadn't fallen as low as he did, Davis Mills would have been our second round pick.
He's not that much worse than Mac Jones. Just saying.
Anyway, let's get back on track here. Let's have a quick prediction. Cincinnati, New England. Nick, we'll start with you.
Sorry, say that again. Sorry.
Cincinnati, New England. What's your prediction for this game?
I'll let Henrik be the optimist. I will say Cincinnati to win 27-17.
I like it. I can't see the Patriots winning this game. Hope I'm wrong. I'm going to go 28-14. Patriots get 2 touchdowns. 28-14 Bengals victory.
You always pick the Patriots. What are you doing?
No. Yeah, I know, but I have a feeling. I have a small feeling that the Patriots are going to turn around, but the Bengals are they're my favorite team to watch this year. So I think they're good team.
I think we're on to Cincinnati. Patriots will come. They'll come away now this week, and I think they'll put all their efforts into this one and lose 28-10.
You cranked up the optimism, and then you just dropped it like freaking.
No.
I think
I actually think
Aguilar drops passes.
I thought he was
I
going to go
actually think it's going to be
2017 then.
something like similar to Nick. I think in and around it, I actually had the same score. 28-17 is what I was going to go for, but we'll say 27-17 just to say something different. But I do think we will score points. I don't like Belichick teams don't get blown out that often. So we will keep it within a score or two. Because that's what we do. We do that. Like, to be fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, it won't be close. You know, there'll be no point we'll go, oh, we're in it. We're not. You know.
Well,
I love it.
So, I realised I should
You're,
probably write these down.
it's great analyzing.
I could see it being such an ugly showing in this game, and I'm going to say 35-18. I don't think it's going to be close. I really don't think it's going to be close. 35-18 is my record. David has put Bengals 31, Pat 17. So me and him are pretty much on the same.
I think you're all 2.5 to 3 scores, pretty much thereabouts. I think me and Nick are actually the most optimistic with the scores.
Yeah.
Sorry, Lou. What did you say? 28 what?
Is it 28-17 or 27-17? Whichever one you had down, just give me the other point. The other source.
Henry, what did you have?
28-14 Bengals victory.
I'll put that
Karl,
in later.
look, I'll get a second seat here next to me on the pessimism train. You can sit alongside. I'll get you a ticket to Ireland. You can sit here alongside me. And,
wonderful. You can also get me a ticket for the NCAA game in August as well.
No problem. I'll be there.
Okay, gentlemen, excellent show as always. Thank you so much. It's been absolutely wonderful. It's good to have you all back on stream. We will be back again, ladies and gentlemen, next week for a recap of the Patriots probably butt fucking against the Cincinnati Bengals. Please make sure you hit a like on the video, you subscribe to the YouTube channel while you're at it. Follow us on all our podcasts on iTunes and on Spotify. And you can also follow us on all our social media platforms on Facebook and Twitter as well. My name is Karl, Nick, Henrik, Luke. This has been the Patriots Touchback Podcast. We'll be back next week. Peace out.
Laters.